Good afternoon and welcome to another broadcast of PharSide Pholios. I'm your host, Monica Leek, and we are excited for you to join with us today as we celebrate not only Black History Month, we also acknowledge that it is Library Lovers Month, and here at PharSide, we enjoy to promote books, not only just amazing books, but amazing authors. And so, our special guest with us on today is author Bishop Science C. Roberts Sr. He is a visionary pastor, coach, and the author of 4 books. Each book was written to coach people through each stage of life so that they can maximize their life on earth and fully enjoy the benefits of having a relationship with God. He confessed hope in Christ at an early age and began preaching at the age of 18. He is the founder of How Shall They Preach, a clinic for the present day preacher. He is dedicated to coaching over criticism and collaboration over competition in ministry. And we're excited to discuss his new book on today, Discipleship, the Challenge of Coaching Christians on today. So welcome to the Far Side, Bishop Roberts.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here. It's a privilege and it's an honor. And I'm ready to dive into some of this content today.
Okay, we're so glad to have you. Now, this title of your book, with that focus word on discipleship, when we think of discipleship in general, people probably immediately go to, thinking about the lives of the 12 disciples of Jesus. Now, how would you define discipleship for this time?
Well, just looking at the word discipleship, a disciple is somebody who sits at the feet of someone and studies and learns from them. And of course, the suffix ship talks about being in the flow of something. So it's not a one-time event. It's a steady flow of learning and receiving information from them. So discipleship in this day and in this hour is basically, we've seen the evolution of coaches. You have life coaches. You have different kind of people who will coach you through life, finance, business, and specifically in this area that I'm speaking of is the Bible and Christianity. So it's definitely evolved, but we're seeing the evolution of more coaches, so to speak, and that's really just a way to help disciple people in certain areas. And so I think it's the evolution of it is more. We can do more because COVID allowed us to tap into more virtual options and things of that nature. So that's kind of what I've seen. I've seen it evolve into just the ability to be able to coach people in more areas.
And you spoke to, COVID and, virtual, opportunities as far as discipleship. And so how have you seen, the process of discipling in the church change as a result, of, this COVID pandemic, since churches had closed, we were closed, then slowly began opening up. And so you're seeing churches come back, slowly coming back into the building. You have seen some churches who weren't able to, fully recover as a result of the impact of the pandemic. So how has, this whole process of discipling believers, during this time pandemic changed now that we've got what looks like a hybrid model or being fully virtual model?
Yeah, so just the word I used before, just evolution. I've seen it evolve. Virtual, just being able to use our virtual options. So even like you and I, what we're doing now, When I first started pastoring 16, 17 years ago, if somebody wanted to interview me, they travel and show up at my church, and the camera would be on both of us sitting in the same room. And what we're doing now was kind of reserved for like major television stations and things of that nature to be able to do this. But now everybody is kind of, using the virtual option for everything, whether it be interviews, church. I sit at the same desk that I'm at now, and I have taught as teach Bible study. We haven't had an in-person, but we're going to have our first in-person Bible study in about a week and a half in almost 2 years. Um, and so we've seen it just evolve to just this virtual model, and we're figuring out how to digitally reach people. So before I came on this call, I was talking online to one of my members that lives all the way in Minnesota. So now, whereas church used to be, your members come from your neighborhood or driving distance. Now we have members in Minnesota, Texas. We had a member in Canada. So it's just evolved into so much more, and all of it is Christ centered. He knew that we would be here, and he knew we would have an opportunity to reach more people. So I'm actually excited about it.
Now, for your book, you use this metaphor of coaching in
Mhm.
relationship to discipling. What does effective coaching look like?
To me, effective coaching, and
But
I've been coaching since. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
yeah, because we think of you think of um, when you think of just the coach at the root, you may think of going going to my niece's, soccer meets, to my nephew's track meets. And so
Right.
for their athletic teams, they've got a coach that is guiding them, telling them what to do, what they're doing wrong, and all those kinds of things. So how do we see that model play out in discipleship? And
So
what does that look like?
I've been blessed to do both sides of it for a long
Mm-hmm.
time. I started coaching not long out of high school. I graduated in '97. I was coaching by 2000. So I'm in my 22nd year of coaching athletics, and I started preaching at 18 and pastoring at 25. So I've been preaching for 24, pastoring for 26, all of which, both of which, involve some sort of coaching. So the main thing that I would say that would allow me to be able to liken it and make the relationship between the two as far as being effective is moving the meter, right? So is a person, when they come to you, are they any better after having been in your presence or after having been under your teaching or having been under your tutelage? um, you don't compare people. You just ask yourself, is the meter moving? And that's in athletics, that's in the church world spiritually. um, it's not going to happen overnight, right? And I don't want to go ahead because I know we'll discuss some other things, but it's not going to happen overnight. But is the meter moving? Are you better? um, Maybe when you came to me, you couldn't get into a 3-point stance from a football perspective, or you couldn't shoot a free throw from a basketball perspective. But maybe you're not Michael Jordan, but maybe we got you shooting free throws now. You know, when you came to me, you didn't know how to pray. And maybe we wouldn't put you up at a conference with 1,000 people, but maybe you have your own individual prayer life right now, and you know how to go to God for yourself. So that's how I measure it: is the meter moving with the people that have been in my presence?
So, I mean, talking about that meter movement, that gave me the visual of actually a visual of kind of like the music meter that my piano teacher used to use, that kind of gave us the rhythm to make sure that we were um, keeping time. So, how do we, as leaders, um, make sure that we're moving? What are some strategies for leaders to make sure we're, moving that meter, and that we're not stuck or stuck in one way of you know discipling, especially given the times.
Yeah. So one of the things I was talking to some of the football coaches that I coach with in a coaching thread. Um, One of the greatest things you can have as a coach is longevity. Certain things you just don't learn until you've been doing it for a while. And so um, you gauge it as you go. You begin to learn different things. And one of the things that I had to learn um, is that I have to learn the people that I'm coaching. Right. Um, I have to learn um, how is their personality. Some people I can deal with and I can be strong with them, right? And that is what they respond to. Other people I have to use positive reinforcement, and not and be a little bit less militant. So one of the greatest things that I've learned is how to learn the personalities of the people that I'm coaching so that I can get the results for those people. And that's a challenge even more so in the spirit world when you're a pastor, when all you do is maybe just coach, and maybe that's you just kind of deal with individuals, it's a little different. But when you're a pastor and you're pastoring a congregation and you're dealing with hundreds of people, and different personalities, and sometimes one person may have multiple personalities, right? So then you got to know who you're dealing with, and you got to know, okay, well, which person am I dealing with today, and then so just understanding the people you're dealing with and knowing how to deal with them, kind of like your children. When you have children, okay, this child is a little different than that child, and I know I have to deal with this person differently, and things of that nature. So you learn that as you go. That's just one area that I could mention that'll help you to be effective. Just know who you're dealing with and learn how to deal with that person.
Do you how does this because the church has reached beyond just those who are members of a congregation,
Hmm.
or who come within the four walls. So, how do these coaching strategies, or how does this model impact how we reach out to those who may not believe?
Yeah. So um, we're living in a time where there is a lot of skepticism, um, surrounding the gospel and surrounding the church, and um, I think that God allows each individual to have a gift that they can use outside of the church, or more than one. I think we have to tap into that. I think coaching is mine. Coaching has allowed me to be able to touch people that will never step foot in my church. Um, I deliver Bibles. So young men, ask me, hey, coach, I read the Bible sometime, but I don't understand it. Okay, no problem. Let me get you a Bible you can understand. It breaks it down a little bit more plainly. Young man's never been to my church, but I think so. I think that's what we have to do. We have to identify, what are our gifts that we can maybe take to the marketplace, or maybe take to to the just to the world, and use them, and then you still bring glory to God for his kingdom, like you said, for people who may never step foot in your church. But that young man may lay in his bed and turn on Facebook or turn on Instagram and watch me preach, maybe. So I think that that's kind of how we gotta view things differently. I believe COVID was the great reset button. I think God allowed us to kind of pause everything and start over, and just kind of say, hey, here's how you really should be reaching people. Here's what I really intended for you, for you to get out of just the four walls of your church, reach more people. And I think that's what's happening now.
Now, do you see this project, now that this project is out in the world, people can go to Amazon and purchase this book? Do you see it as a guide, more so for those who do the coaching, or for those that are being discipled, or for both groups?
It's definitely for both groups. It's some very, very freeing information there. Some information that if you read it, it'll help to free you, because I think, we I try to deal with some myths, and try to bring some truth to some things that people believe that I feel like are untrue. So it'll help you as a person who needs to be discipled, but it'll definitely also help those who are trying to help disciple other people. And I don't know if we know this or not, but the moment we become believers, our job is to help convert other believers. So all of us should be coaching in some way, shape, or form.
And with that, you give us in the book coaching tips. You just, as a part of the chapters, you got some coaching tips that are like highlighted in the book that nobody's going to be able to miss unless they just, skip over and go to the
Mhm.
next, fast forward to the next chapter. But what was the idea behind sharing, a coaching tip?
Just for practical application, and so you can take what I'm saying in this book and what I just said in that chapter and kind of understand how, this goes into your everyday life. And then, for the average everyday believer, I wanted them to be able, I think the highest level of learning is application. I wanted them to be able to take it and apply it to their lives, and have an example of what discipleship really looks like. And then for a coach, I think it will really get their juices going. Like, oh, okay, yeah, I understand this because I do this every day, in practice. So, just the ability to be able to make it all connect and come together.
All right. Can you share like two or three coaching tips? Some two or three of your favorite coaching tips from the book?
Yeah, so one of them is when you're training to be an athlete, one of the things the coach has to do is help with resistance, and that's either with weights or that's with just making in tough situations and tough scenarios. One of the things we try to do, I believe in this as a coach, football, any sport, practice needs to be tougher than the game. So when I say resistance, I mean even weights is resistance. When you're lifting, the weight is resisting you, and it makes you stronger. But also adversity in practice. So that's one coaching tip. Always, never run from resistance. Um, Resistance is not rebellion. Resistance is there to make you strong. And so when it's resisting you, and it's not easy for you, that's usually going to work out good for you. And so that's the first coaching tip. Just don't run from resistance. Adversity is good for you. The second coaching tip, second slash third, I'll kind of put them together, is EDDs and IDDs. So everyday drills and individual drills. There are things as a disciple, things as a believer, you should be doing every day. Um, you should be talking to God in some way, shape, or form every day. They make it so easy now, just like things have converted virtually, and it makes it easier for us to disciple, as it relates to access the Bible. I can turn, it's no excuse for me not to read some Bible, because even if I'm not sitting and my eyes are not reading, I've got a Bible that reads to me. When I get in the car, I just turn it on. I don't, instead of turning on music, I turn on the Bible and I just start. Now that's different than my study time, but just EDD, just at things that are like muscle memory for me, where my spirit is getting fed. So it's no different than when you listen to a song all the time, and before you know it, you just singing that song in the grocery store or in the shower because it's in you, right? So it's the same thing. Every day, put the right thing in you, and then in times when you least expect it, it'll come out of you. And then individual drills is just, well, we come to church and we worship together, but there should be some individual time. Some things you can't depend on the group to do. It's got to be about you. So those are the three things that stick right out immediately to me. That's all in the book, by the way, everyone.
All right. So remember, those who are watching us live, tag a friend, share this with a friend, because Bishop Roberts is giving us some wonderful words of wisdom through his commentary with us on today. One of the first coaching tips that is in the book, you talk about dynamic warm up. So now, what is that dynamic warm up in the life of a disciple of Christ?
So in just the secular world or the coaching world, um, the dynamic warm up is something you do so that your body is ready for high level intensity, high level activity. You get your muscles loose, you get your blood flowing, get your temperature up, um, and so you can go out there and perform either in practice or in the game. So from the Christian perspective, things like worship, I, we're getting ready to. So if you come to our service, there's always a dynamic warm up before I get up to minister. And when I'm getting ready to preach the gospel, that's game time. That's time for me to, we hit it hard. But before that, we start with fire starting prayer. So we're praying, we're getting the people stirred, we're worshiping, we're lifting our hands, we're singing, all helping us to warm up and invite an atmosphere and say, God, come in. Even
Even
patience,
patient.
just being patient and waiting on God to do some things instead of thrusting yourself in there, and self forgiveness. When you're talking about warming up, because one of the things about a warm up is if you don't warm up, you risk injury, right? Meaning you don't just grab the basketball, grab a football, and just put your pads on and go hit people. You got to get loose in some way, shape, or form, or you'll injure yourself. I think sometimes as believers, we rush into things and we think, we condemn ourselves because we think, okay, well, I should be further along than this, or I messed up. So, well, but God understands that, you're going to warm up to, you're going to get better and better every day. Today you're going to be better than yesterday, and yesterday you're going to be better than, tomorrow you're going to be better than today. And so all of that is a part of what I believe is the dynamic warm up in our life. Just being able to forgive ourselves, being patient with ourselves, worshiping, prayer, all of those lead up to ultimately our time with God, or the things that, um, God will have us to do.
Now, for those who may be on the coaching side of discipleship, whether they're, the pastor, a teacher, a small group facilitator, what is the most challenging aspect of coaching? And can you provide one or two strategies that these coaches can use to meet some of those challenges?
Well, so yeah, I mean, one of the most challenging things in coaching is dealing with the personalities, like we said before. Um, that's more challenging than anything, because whatever, I've always told people, and I've said this about specifically in the secular world, but even in the spirit world, and in the church and ministry and the kingdom, I should say, um, I can coach anything. I've never played tennis, but if you allow me just a few days to study it, because I'm a leader and I understand coaching, I could coach it. I could take it and I can teach it once I know the information. So that's not the most challenging part. You can always find out information. It's usually managing personalities and understanding who you're dealing with. And some of the tips I would say is, I'm doing a clinic in just a few weeks, April 8th and 9th. How shall they preach? And it's really going to be a clinic about, preaching the gospel, but also just I'll be coaching people in the kingdom on, basically how to coach and how to communicate your message and how to get that message out. So, that always make sure you study the people who you're coaching and know what it is that they have a desire, what they need. But shameless plug for my How Shall They Preach clinic. They're going to be in person and virtual options available. So if you need more on that, April 8th and 9th, registration opens March 1st, and we'll be giving more information on, coaching tips and things of that nature, specifically as it relates to preaching the gospel of Jesus Christ.
All right, so those who are watching live and those who will catch the replay, make sure you share this out and mark your calendars for the preaching clinic, because this is going to help you in your coaching, in your delivery, and being able to carry out your message, make your message clear to your audience and convey that message to your audience. So all of that and more are going to be in this preaching clinic. So you want to follow Bishop Roberts, and we'll hit you up with his social media handles so you can follow him and find him and get registered or do what you have to do to be a part of this clinic. So definitely want you to mark your calendars for that. Bishop Roberts, what's one lesson from this book that really hits home for you, and what is something that you want your readers to take away from this book?
Easily for me, my probably my favorite part of the book is the part where I'm talking about the moving target, and how we in the church and or we in the in ministry, um, we're trying to. So the Bible says, "I press towards the mark of the prize of the high calling," and we're all trying to press towards this mark because to sin means to miss the mark. But the problem is the church keeps moving the target, and we keep saying, well, this is right, and this is not right, and some denominations say, well, if you wear pants, you wrong, or if you wear too much makeup, you wrong, and we just have all of these targets that people are trying to hit, but we as the church keep moving the targets, and what we just kind of talk about, and I won't let the cat out the bag, but we just kind of talk about it in the book. Um, you know what it is from a godly perspective, what that target is, and how to find out the target and the mark that God wants you to hit, so that you're not running crazy trying to please men. That's probably one of my favorite parts of the book, for me.
So, what is something that you hope readers will walk away with once they, finish the book? Because they're going to get the book, they're going to go to Amazon and they're going to get the book. So once
Mhm.
they get the book and they're reading and processing through it, what you hope is like their major takeaway.
My prayer is that once they get this book, they will go out and be totally excited to make disciples. Um, just go and convert people to Christ and not be intimidated, because we're intimidated sometimes. To like me, I'm still searching to try to get myself better. You mean I can go and help somebody else, um, and then also to help for people to understand, when they're being coached, these are the things that you need in your life. So like there's a chapter that talks about, just kind of your group that you can't do this by yourself, that you need people around you to help you, so that people understand, hey, I need to accept the help of some people, because there are some people who've been through traumatic situations that they don't trust people and they don't take help well. So I want people on both sides to be ready to either be helped or go and help somebody and not be intimidated by either.
Okay. So you published this book during this process of pandemic. So how do you describe your writing journey with writing and publishing during this kind of time period?
So, well, first of all, during the pandemic, I think I was done with this book a little bit before the pandemic, right before the pandemic hit, but the journey is the same. Um, I basically, I have the thought in mind that this is what God wants me to write about, and every important thought, I just write it down and I use that as an outline. So now these outlines, these different thoughts become chapters, and then I fill the chapters in. So as God is saying, "Hey, I want you to write about discipleship and use it as a coaching point," and then every chapter I'm talking is just an important thought that I wanted to make sure that we talked in detail about, and then you have to go and you do your research on each chapter to make sure that the chapter, um, is lining up with, what it is that you're saying, and that everything is correct. And so you got to do your homework. But that's basically how I do it. I have the thought, then I create the outline based upon my important thoughts about that subject, and then we fill in, or we put the meat on the bones, so to speak.
All right. So, what are some words of wisdom and encouragement that you can give to those watching live or who will catch the replay as to if they want to write and aspire to write? Um, what are some words of encouragement that you could give them?
Get started, do it. Like, the hardest part is just doing it. It's like, feels some people feel like it's so intimidating to write a book, like you got it inside of you, but just start writing. What's your title going to be? And like I said, what are some things that are important to you? You're not going to sit down and write a book in one night for the most part. So just start writing some things somewhere you can keep them, and keep up with them, and then you'll see how it'll form, and it'll formulate. And then the next thing would be find somebody that has written a book, and they should be willing, somebody that's willing to help you on your journey. But the main thing is get started. Every journey, the journey of 1,000 miles, begins with one step. So just take that step and get started.
All right, Bishop Roberts, thank you for that. So, how can our viewers follow you on social media and find your book?
So Facebook, I got two pages, Sieon Roberts Ministries. That's all ministry related stuff. And then just I'm just Sieon Roberts too on my personal page. And that's the more down to earth me. That's funny stuff, sports stuff. Sometimes I'm encouraging and inspirational on there. I'm never out of order though. I'm always I'm never, you're never gonna see me post something crazy. But that's Facebook. So Sieon Roberts Ministries, or you can follow me on my personal page. It's the same handle for Instagram and Twitter. It's Sieon Roberts Ministry. I'm sorry, Sieon Roberts Senior One. Sieon Roberts Sieon Roberts Roberts Senior SR, the number one on Instagram and on Twitter. Please go follow me. Um, I'm struggling for followers on Instagram and Twitter, so please follow me. I got 5,000 friends on Facebook because I've been on Facebook for 30 years. But I need Instagram and Twitter followers, so please go follow me. Thank you so much.
All right, you heard it here from Bishop Roberts. We're so thankful that Bishop Roberts joined us on today, and we thank you for spending time with us this afternoon. And we wish you continued success with this particular book, Discipleship, the Catch with Coaching Christians. So definitely, those who are watching live and those who will catch the replay, you want to pick up this title from Amazon. It's available now on Amazon. So you definitely want to check this out, especially those who are coaching, who are in the coaching area, as well as those who are leaders in whatever aspect of ministry you are in. This is going to be an effective tool for you that you want in your toolbox or your belt. And even if you're not in the coaching arena or you're not in ministry, if you're in business or in any other aspect of leadership, this is a book that you really want to have as a part of your toolbox, because you'll have some helpful nuggets that you can apply and use in your setting. So we thank you, Bishop Sieon Roberts Sr., for spending this afternoon with us. To our viewers who are watching live and those who will catch the replay, we want to encourage you to make sure you're staying tuned to the PharSide Coed Book Club Facebook page for more interviews and posts, as we celebrated this month, Black History Month, along with Library Lovers Month. Go check out a book at your library today. And until next time, remember, many roots, many voices are a part of the infinite story. So plant your seed. Have a good day until next time.
Thank you. So are we still live or are we done?